Hello and welcome to the Healing with Homeopathy Substack and the Bright Light Wellness YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about another acute remedy. I've been doing this kind of series on acute remedies. We've talked about many, so scroll back and look at calendula and arnica and bryonia and hypericum, and I can't even remember, but I've done a lot of different acute remedies. And today I wanted to talk about Arsenicum Album in acutes. And I guess I'll touch on the chronic as well, because it's such a big polycrest remedy, meaning it's a big, huge remedy. It's trimasmatic, meaning it covers all miasms. And I'm going to be talking more about miasms for paid subscribers. So be in touch, be ready for that information if you want to know more there. But Arsenicum Album is great for acutes as well. And it's great for acute flus or stomach viruses, usually one or the other. And it is a fantastic remedy for that situation. Stomach viruses, the first two remedies you're going to think of are Arsenicum Album and Veratrum Album. And they can be kind of similar, but yet different. Arsenicum Album is a very good flu and acute remedy, okay? You're going to think of Arsenicum Album if somebody has like a stomach virus with vomiting and diarrhea. It could just be diarrhea. The diarrhea will be burning in nature. This will likely come on. They are usually aggravated at midnight or after. So this will likely come on in the middle of the night. They will feel restless. They will feel anxious. They will desire company. They may have a fever. They'll likely feel chilly. They will feel cold. Their head might be hot though, but the rest of the body will feel chilly and cold. They will desire sips of water. They may even desire lemons or something on the sour side. I actually had an acute that fit this picture so clearly. It was unbelievable, to the point where I even desired lemons and sips of water and felt very restless. Arsenicum Album might feel they need to pace when they have an acute. They might feel they will likely feel extremely fatigued. And there will be vomiting and diarrhea, and it will and it will burn, and they will feel very weak. So this was my picture. I had this acute back, and I think it was like March or April or something I think it was April. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I had this stomach pain, and I felt restless and I felt anxious about it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get sick. I know it. Like, my stomach was killing me. It was wrenching. I knew I was going to get sick. And I felt so incredibly weak and chilly, lots of chills. And I probably had a fever, but I didn't have a chance to check. And I went in my bathroom, and I laid on the floor because I was so weak I couldn't even sit. And then the diarrhea started, and then the vomiting started. And then I had to call my husband, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Go get me my homeopathy kit." And I took a dose of Arsenicum Album 30C. And I will say, after I took that dose, I felt calmer, much calmer. The body still needed to do what it needed to do and remove what wasn't serving it by removing having the diarrhea and the vomiting. It needed to remove the things, but I felt calmer. And then the next day I felt weak. And then I felt weak, and my stomach felt, and I didn't really want to eat too much. And I didn't take another dose because I knew I was better, because I wasn't vomiting and diarrheaing anymore. And I felt a little bit better. So I was like, usually my rule of thumb is when somebody is 50% better, we don't dose again. So I didn't dose again. And normally after like a stomach virus like that, people take days to recover. Like, when it's this intense. I mean, this was intense. Like, it was like vomiting and diarrhea for hours, and just like exhaustion and chills and fever. Like, it was very intense for hours, from like it started around 1 a.m. That's when Arsenicum Album is aggravated, from like 1 a.m. to like, I don't know, like sometime in the morning, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So it was very intense, and I was able to be calmer and not restless and less anxious with the Arsenicum. But normally when somebody has something intense like that, and then I didn't eat for 24 hours, they're very weak. I'm telling you, I woke up the next day after this stomach virus. I had a day of recovery, but after that day of recovery and just letting my body heal and relax, I woke up like on top of the world, so much energy, so much vitality. It was like insane. I was like, I'm totally back to normal. I'm ready for life. Like zippity doo dah. Like it was like that. It was crazy. Um, and I think that's really important to show how much a good remedy, when it's very indicated and it matches so well, how much good work it can really do in the body, and it really supports it. And acutes help heal chronic disease, by the way. We can get acutes. That's how we actually heal chronic disease. The immune system, my immune system was finally strong enough to get an acute like that, which it hadn't been in previous years, but that's also a return of old symptoms, which is part of the direction of cure. The symptoms that I used to get stomach viruses like once a year, twice a year. And it's a good way the body's cleaning everything out. The fever, the discharges, this is good for the body. It's not a negative thing. It's a really good thing. Anyway, that's my Arsenicum Album little story. I've taken Arsenicum Album acutely and chronically as well. So that's a good description of an Arsenicum Album acute and why you'd want to have it in your toolkit and your first aid kit. Veratrum Album is very similar, except they're going to have cold sweat on their face, or just cold sweat in general. The sweat will be cold. They'll be sweating and be cold, and they will have projectile vomiting, lots of projectile vomiting going on. They're not as anxious or restless. The timing doesn't matter as much. You're more likely to have an Arsenicum Album stomach virus than you are a Veratrum Album. But I've seen it. My son had a Veratrum Album acute one time like that, where he was projectile vomiting and he's had the cold sweat on his face. I was like, oh, this is Veratrum Album. He did not take that remedy at that time because I was waiting. That's another thing. You have to know when to dose. It was part of the remedy. It was part of his clearing, and I didn't dose it. Anyway, that's the Arsenicum Album. So it's good for like food poisoning, stomach flu, with vomiting and diarrhea. It can be watery, they could vomit bile. They usually will have a fever 1, 2 a.m. This is the aggravation time of this remedy. So you'll notice them having this at that time. In fact, I had a client one time, he get a fever every night at 1, 2 a.m. And so many other things fit, but it was Arsenicum Album. It was an acute with a fever. He had like a flu, and the fever would spike every night at 1 a.m. And it was like, that's Arsenicum Album, In the flu, they're going to have extreme weakness, extreme fatigue. They're going to crave warmth. They're going to be chilly. They're going to want warmth. They're going to want sips of water. They're like frequent sips of water, Arsenicum Album. They'll be restless despite being exhausted, though. So they might want to move around and be a little restless and move their body any way they can, or maybe get up and pace. They're restless and fatigued at the same time. And they might have fear of death, and they will definitely desire company. Arsenicum Album desires company, typically in acute. They will feel anxious and want your help and support. So they'll desire company. It's also good for allergies as well. They have watery, burning discharges. Arsenicum Album is famous for its right-sided coryza, so a right-sided runny nose that burns and acrid, or the nose will just get all red and acrid. That's a lot of times that's Arsenicum Album. It could be good for respiratory issues as well. They would be very anxious and restless in that case, very exhausted. They might have asthma attacks. Again, midnight to 2 a.m. would be the time of that to happen. Desiring company, symptoms help by sitting up and hindered by laying down. A lot of remedies have that as well. Pulsatilla would have that also and is aggravated at night. So yeah. Now, in the chronic case of Arsenicum Album, it's a very good polycrest and a very good chronic remedy as well. Most people need. In fact, it's such a good flu remedy. The time of the C19 issue, Arsenicum Album was given out a lot by homeopaths, and that's because Arsenicum Album is full of fear and anxiety. And the frequency of that, pandemic was full of fear and anxiety. They pumping out the fear, right? And everybody was so anxious. And that drives the Arsenicum Album state. The fear and anxiety drives the Arsenicum Album. In the chronic cases, because they're so fearful and so anxious, they desire a lot of control. So they want to control their environment as much as they can. So they're fastidious. They keep everything neat and organized. They're probably going to organize their closet and color code it and have lists and check it off. And just, they're very much, the house has to be neat. Like they have a lot of anxiety about their health. They're going to be doing all the health things. They're going to be wearing the thing if they're afraid of that. They're going to be washing the fruits and just trying to control their environment as much, taking all the supplements, so much control of their environment because they are living in a state of fear and anxiety, but the control is how they deal with the fear and anxiety, right? So that's Arsenicum Album in a nutshell. They are chilly people. They will be restless people. They will crave heat. Like I said, they will be very fastidious. They will have burning pains that are relieved by heat. So they have burning pains anywhere, the stomach, heartburn, whatever. And it's better with heat. So they like warmth. So they want a hot water bottle or to go in a hot tub or something. Some sort of warmth will help them feel better. But cold milk actually helps relieve burning pains too. So if you have heartburn, but you drink cold milk and that makes your heartburn feel better, that remedy might be Arsenicum Album. They can have diarrhea, stomach pains with that, vomiting. They can have, allergies with burning discharges of the nose, like I mentioned before. Frequent sips of water is what they desire. Extreme weakness and restlessness. So they're very tired, but they're also restless. Tired and restlessness. That's Arsenicum Album. Everything is offensive on them. It's very Arsenicum Album is made from arsenic, by the way. It's arsenic in the crude form. It's in a homeopathic form, but it's very offensive discharges. So stool, everything smells bad, urine, pus, whatever's coming. They don't really have pussy remedy, but whatever discharges are coming out of them, they don't smell good. They like warm drinks and warm foods. They are desire company, like I mentioned before. They have a lot of health anxiety, fear of death, and very much a despair of recovery remedy. They have a lot of despair of recovery. They're usually thin people. They don't really gain weight easily, and they usually have diarrhea. They have fear of poverty. That's a good symptom by them. So yeah, that's Arsenicum Album in a nutshell. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to share with you guys about Arsenicum Album. It's a great remedy. They can have panic attacks, especially 12 a.m. to 2 a.m., like in that midnight time. Phosphorus can have this. There are other remedies that can have this, but it's a good remedy to consider. Restlessness and fidgety. They need a lot of reassurance. They have a lot of despair of recovery. They have a lot of fear of death, fear of disease. Oh, fear of germs is so big. Fear of germs. Sulfur has fear of germs, and so does syphilinum, but they have strong fear of germs. But anything, they have fear of, all kinds of diseases, fear of being alone, desiring company, fear of robbers, poverty, agoraphobia is a symptom of this remedy. This is an interesting symptom. So they have anxiety for the well-being of family members and close friends who provide security. So they worry like those people, they're their safety net. The people who take care of them, right? The people who love them and take care of them are their safety net. So they don't want to have those people taken away from them because that's how they feel safe with that company and with those people who take care of them. They can be kind of selfish and stingy. They have this fear of poverty thing. They like to save everything. They can be hoarders. They're very perfectionistic, especially about their healing, but about their home and things like that. They like to remain in control at all times, a lot of careful planning. They can have depression to even suicidal depression. In fact, when I took this remedy constitutionally, I activated my depression and suicidal thoughts. That was a tough go around, but that sometimes happens in the aggravation phase. They suicidal thoughts with using a knife typically, and I don't really talk about my health journey so much, but when I was at my sickest of my sickest, I had a lot of suicidal thoughts because I thought like living in chronic severe pain, like I might as well not be here. I mean, that really was what I felt like, and I always would think of stabbing myself with a knife. Those thoughts would come up to me, and sorry if that's too much for you, but that's exactly what I would think of. Mercury can have this as well, and so can Arsenicum Album. Yeah, they can have obsessive hand washing and like OCD type behaviors. Like I said, they're chilly, they're very exhausted. It's an anti-syphilitic miasm, so it's a polycrest, which is tri-miasmatic, means it covers all miasms, but it's particularly a syphilitic miasm. Burning pains that are better by heat. Right-sided coryza, we talked about that. Runny nose that burns. Stomach pages ameliorated by drinking milk. 2 a.m. is their aggravation time between 12 and 2 a.m. Thirsty for small sips of water. They're not, the food desires of Arsenicum Album are kind of like, they like fats, they like sour, especially lemon. They like alcohol, warm foods. They can have diarrhea or offensive stools. They can have psoriasis or eczema. It can be eruptions with or without itching, or just itching without any eruptions. I've seen that. Dry skin, they can have Raynaud's, where their fingers turn yellow from the cold. Poor circulation. They can have asthma, again, worse by sitting up, worse at 12, worse, excuse me, better by sitting up. I said that wrong. Worse 12 to 2 a.m. It's a really good remedy. And that's all I'm going to say, because that's a lot of information I just gave you about Arsenicum Album. But it's an excellent, excellent remedy. I highly recommend you have it in your toolkit for acutes. The chronic Arsenicum Album, you might want to meet with somebody. Arsenicum Album can look like phosphorus, can look like carcinosin. There are other remedies to consider, even pulsatilla. These remedies at Old Desire Company. Carcinosin, not so much company, but they can be aggravated by company, but they can be this controlling, fastidious nature. Nux vomica can have a lot of this and can have a lot of stomach issues. So you really want to meet with a homeopath so you get the right remedy for you. I wouldn't recommend taking remedies chronically on your own, but acutely, yes, I do recommend it. So this is a good one to have in your toolkit for your acutes. It's one that I would highly recommend. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I think I'm going to do belladonna next is on my list. I have a long list of remedies that I'm trying to really support you guys with, but I have seen Arsenicum Album do some beautiful things in acutes. It didn't really support me chronically. I thought it would have more, kind of surprising, but when my body needed it in acute, I felt much stronger after that acute. So I know acutes really heal chronics, and that's an important piece of the pie. So I hope that you enjoyed this video on Arsenicum Album. Go get it in your remedy, kit. I'd recommend having a 30C and a 200C. 30C probably will do you just fine in a flu or a stomach virus. May need to repeat it a few times. Whenever you're 50% better, you don't need to repeat. If it's really intense, you could do a 200C, but you'd probably be okay with a 30. I think I like 30Cs for acute personally, but sometimes we need a little higher, but I say that'll be just fine. Okay, I hope that was a great video for you guys. Hope you learned a lot about Arsenicum Album, and I will catch you guys on the next one. And stay tuned for my talks about cell salts and my talks about miasms, which are upcoming. And I will continue to do more videos for paid subscribers as well, for acutes. I have all kinds of big plans. So if you want to learn about homeopathy, just keep tuning in to this channel and keep sticking with me. Have an awesome day.